Welcome back to another episode of the Brave Central podcast. He's Chris Dimino. I'm Barrett, Sallee. We're here to talk all things Atlanta Braves. 3 games down with the Red Series, 1 more to go before the boys go to Pittsburgh to take on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Chris, we had another chance to get to 500. I think I jinxed it yet again. But after that game, a lot of people are talking about why Brian Snitker chose to put Eddie Rosario out there instead of Eli White, especially when Eli White has been hitting so well. What do you make of that decision?
I mean, I wouldn't have done it. I mean, you know how
I wouldn't either.
I'm not here to root against Eddie Rosario, but I'm not expecting much. And if I'm not expecting much, I don't think I put him up in that spot. Now, I'm also a guy who says don't look at the piece of paper and let that be the lone decision-making process, reading a piece of paper. And Brian Snitker did say his numbers are better, and that's why he did it. But I'm also going to go by, eyeballs and heartbeats. I don't mind a gut play. I've watched managers decide to do something on a gut. I don't really – listen, I'm not bitching about it excessively. I wouldn't have done it because, to me, you put trust in Eli White. He's your guy, and why not have him be your guy in a moment where he could be the guy? And that, Eddie Rosario, to me, just sort of seems like he's here, therefore I'll use him. And to try to recapture magic or whatever the heck it is just not a thing that I'm going to go with.
Yeah, that's not a gut feeling that makes sense to me either. I get it. Like, everybody uses analytics in a different way, and that's okay. Some people don't use it at all. Some people, swear by it and everything in between, whatever. But looking at Rosario's stats historically in that situation doesn't make any sense to me, especially when you look at Eli White's stats right now, and they are by far and away better than not only Rosario, but basically everybody else on the team. That was my problem. It wasn't just that it was Rosario. In fact, I think that's sort of a secondary story. There's no reason to take the bat out of Eli White's hands at all in that situation. And I think, look, Rosario he's a legend, right? He's going to live in Braves lore as one of the most important pieces of the 2021 World Series run. And that's fine. Like, that's totally fine. It won't change. It shouldn't change. But we're talking 4 years later now and recapturing magic while the other option is welcoming the current magic. It doesn't make any sense to me. But it wasn't the reason the Braves lost that game. The reason was the offense, again, struggled. They had too many strikeouts. Only 1 hit with runners in scoring position. It's sort of the same old thing over and over and over again, even in wins. Like we talked about against LA on that Sunday game, 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. In the walk-off 2 days ago, 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position. That can't continue if you need to be, if you want to be a World Series champion caliber team.
Well, they're riding a roller coaster with that stat. And, it was terrible. Then it got hot for a handful of games, and everybody's like, look at this, 370, 380 with runners in scoring position, and now it, basically tanked again. I will say this about Grant Holmes' start. It felt like more runs. It felt like he gave up more because it just felt like there was a lot of activity going on, but you're still in a baseball game. Hunter Green goes out, and all of a sudden you say, okay, let's go get the bullpen, and that didn't happen. They were the better team last night. They found a way to beat up our starter once their starter was gone. And anytime Hunter Green leaves the game, and I'm not talking about you root for injury, but yeah, life is supposed to get a little bit easier, but it didn't last night. And now you're 2-1 against Cincinnati with a Game 4, sort of a rare Game 4 situation against a non-division opponent, and then they'll go to Pittsburgh. And at the end of the day, Pittsburgh is, which I guess we'll talk about here real quick, they've lost 7 in a row. The one thing the Pirates have done that I don't even know if anybody else in baseball has done this. They've only had 5 starters this year. Their 5 guys have gone through the rotation. And, of course, Paul Skenes sits at the top. They're going to ruin him. They're going to ruin anything that really could be good in that organization. And they're going to lose, and he's going to lose. He's 3-4 with a 2.77. Mitch Keller's a pretty good pitcher. Well, he's 1-4. Andrew Heaney. At the end of the day, you've got to go compete because you have attitude, you got the name on the front, you got the name on the back, your salary is certainly going to be dependent upon your results, but it just feels like your life gets just sucked right out in a place like that, and we're not even in the middle of May. And if I'm a Pirates fan, my 12 wins, I'm sitting around going, well, I know how this story ends. We don't go to the postseason again. Yeah. And Paul Skenes, unless he's pitching in a national game, I got to look, but I don't even know what the attendance difference is when he pitches at home. Like at a certain point, Felix Hernandez was one of those guys. He's dying on a vine in Seattle, and everybody in Seattle who's wanted to see him has seen him. You get nothing out of it. You don't even get an attendance bump. And all you're going to do is, this guy's got to wait till he hits free agency, unless they do something dramatic, which would be to trade him. And certainly the player. This isn't the NBA. You really don't demand trades in baseball. This is not the NFL where you can jerk your way out of a situation. The game isn't really built like that. But I can tell you, he'll die on a vine, and nobody much will care. All we'll do is we'll look at the numbers and go, oh, he's 3-4. What does it mean? I'll tell you this. He drags his ass to the ballpark every day. I'm sure he's got pride, but this can't be a very good feeling for anybody on this team right now.
Yeah, I think but unfortunately for Pittsburgh fans, this is kind of life. This is kind of normal. I think for the Braves, winning, if they win tonight, 3-4 from the Reds, you lose the Hunter Green game. We know what happened with the Hunter Green game, but that's probably the one you sort of chalked up as probably one you're going to lose anyway. But you're right with Pittsburgh. We talk about it a lot. This is a chance for the Braves to get hot. And every single time we talk about that, it doesn't happen. And so I'm not taking anything for granted now. I've gone 180 degrees from what we talked about on the Ford Leadoff show yesterday. I am not going to assume that the Braves are going to get to 500 after this little stretch over the next week where theoretically things do lighten up a little bit. But Austin Riley has been the guy that's carrying this team. And look, at first it was Ozuna. Now it's Austin Riley. I think for Austin and for this team, having that kind of success out of the number 2 hole in an era where number 2 hitters, I think, are more important than they have been really maybe any time in the history of baseball. That's big because eventually Ozuna's bat's going to get hot, and we've seen glimpses of that. Matt Olson's hitting the ball hard. They haven't found the holes. Some of that is, defensive alignment and, hard hit percentages and everything, and it doesn't always even out. But Austin being healthy, Austin getting to a spot where he can be an all-star, the all-star caliber level, is huge, especially when we've seen Alex Verdugo the last couple of days. Some of that success has kind of started to drop off a little bit.
Well, you can't win with one guy being hot. Go ask the Yankees. Where are they right now with Aaron Judge? He's had maybe the greatest 6 weeks in the history of baseball. 21-16, only because they've won a couple of games in a row, but 5-5 in their last 10. So you can have the greatest player on the planet by far, and that's Aaron Judge, and it doesn't guarantee you anything. So however hot Austin Riley gets, it's really difficult to win games with one hot bat. Guys are going to come around. There's going to be a knock. You're going to see the walk-off the other night where it's Michael Harris and then it's Marcell Ozuna. You do need those types of things. You can't ride one guy. One guy is not going to actually run the entire race and cross the finish line with you picking up wins if he's the only one doing anything. I mean, I'm just looking at some of the standings and the record. It's hard to lose 10 games in a row. The Pirates have lost 7 in a row. And I'm not talking about being due for a win. It's just something will happen or something will break. So when the Braves go in there, if the Pirates are still on this losing streak and everybody just says, well, thank God, well, let's play the games. Let's find out. And then Washington coming up after that. And by the way, in case you're wondering, the Washington Nationals sit 1 game behind the Braves at 17-21. They don't do really anything exceptionally well, but they only sit 1 game behind the Braves. So this is supposed to be the go get fat. This is right before, feed the turkey. Let's fatten it up a little bit. I don't know. I don't feel necessarily like you're all of a sudden going to become King Kong just because of the opponents. You don't really look and feel like King Kong right now. And I don't think the opponent matters as much as some other people think it does when it comes to baseball.
I tend to agree for sure. Now, pitching matchups haven't been announced as of, we're recording this at 8:17 on Thursday morning. So starters haven't been announced, but I would assume Bryce Elder will be starting against Pittsburgh. 3 straight pretty solid starts for Bryce Elder. He's a lightning rod, I think, around Braves country. I think there's some sort of thought that, he should be gone, that he shouldn't have another shot. And what he's done the last 3 weeks, that's just, a flash in the pan. But that's what a 5th starter is supposed to do. He's putting up 5th starter numbers. because he's a fifth starter.
Yeah.
And that's
Look,
okay.
You've won 4 games in a row with the guy in the mound. You've won 4 games in a row. If anybody's saying that Bryce Elder's not supposed to get the next start, well, where are you going to go to? Waldrop?
Yeah, who else is it going to be?
Ian Anderson all of a sudden now is going to rise up and become a starter. Bryce Elder's earned the spot. He's pitching better now. We'll find out how long it lasts. Schwellenbach's the guy that's really got to pick it up a notch or two. And, we'll find out about him tonight. But he's the guy that I think is a little bit more concerning than anybody else, because before Strider gets back, and thank goodness we've seen the other version of Chris Sale, the guy that he's been, in the last couple of starts has been fantastic to watch. It's fun to watch. He's a better pitcher than most guys in baseball when he's throwing like that. But Schwellenbach has got to be a little bit more of an answer right now for this team.
Yeah, and he hasn't been. Which is utterly bizarre that we're sitting here on May 8th saying that theoretically Spencer Schwellenbach might not be the best pitcher on this team. I mean, it's crazy to think that, at least right this very moment. But I'm interested to see what Bryce does, and certainly AJ Smith-Shawver after what he did last time out. These are two guys. The success is in there. Obviously AJ has more stuff than Bryce, but Bryce has had success, and what he's done matters. Yeah. It does matter. And we talk about feasting on the bad teams, so to speak. Well, Pittsburgh is in a bad spot right now. I don't think there's any doubt about it. For a guy like Bryce Elder, who's still trying to fight to stay in the majors and has done a really good job of that the last 3 starts, we'll do it again against a bad opponent. Make sure that you don't let one get away that you shouldn't let get away, which is why this start, whether it's, Friday or Saturday, they haven't announced starters yet, but it is pretty big for him moving forward as a starting pitcher on this team, especially since Strider is starting to make at least some small steps forward.
All I care about is, again, when it's him, it's the back end of the rotation. Keep your team in a game. If it's more than that, see A.J. Smith-Shawver in his last start. You want to have a good time, because that all of a sudden shows up sort of randomly where this guy's got a no-no through 7. It just makes the game and the night more interesting. But against these teams that don't score a lot of runs, and that would certainly be Pittsburgh. Cincinnati's had a problem scoring runs all year. I don't know if anything's a given right now. You sit below 500 for a reason, and let's just play the games. I told you, when it comes to Ronald Acuna, when it comes to Spencer Strider, when it comes to hitting 500 and going past 500, I'll know it when I see it, because it'll say it here, or I'll know it before I go to bed one night. Oh, Ronald Acuna played. Oh, Spencer Strider pitched. Oh, look at the Braves. They're 2 games over 500, whatever it is. I'm not counting down the days. I'm not waiting with bated breath for any of this stuff. You got a game to play tonight. You got 3 to play this weekend, and Washington comes back in. So, for me, I'm nonplussed by a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing. The runners in scoring position thing. Schwellenbach is kind of, now it's a little bit more iffy than anybody was hoping it was going to be. And that's what happens. You're going to play 162 of these, and there are going to be nights where you demolish people. There are going to be nights where you basically eat the pipe. And there are going to be nights where you have 1-run games. The Pirates are 5-7 in 1-run games. They played 12 of them. That means they played 12 games that could go this way, could go that way. Now, they're not good enough to actually be 9-3 in those games, but they played 12 1-run games, which means nobody's really gone in there and demolished them series to series. So we'll see. The Braves are going to get their crack this weekend.
There's no doubt. Well, this has been the Braves Central podcast. Subscribe, review, share, do all of those things. Big weekend coming up, of course. We'll have all the coverage right here on 680 The Fan and the Braves Radio Network. He's Chris Dimino. I'm Barrett Sallee. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you after this weekend's series against Pittsburgh.